Are you ready for
Inventor Part 2? Howdy, my name is Nonat. This video is a little bit late. Let's talk about the Inventor. Starting off with the first level feat, built-in tools. This basically turns your innovation into your toolkit. So as long as you're holding, wearing, or next to your innovation, they count as having your artisan tools. These can be tools for crafting, alchemy, repairing. Any set of tools, thieves' tools, are built directly into your innovation, and as long as you have your innovation with you, you always have access to it, even without having to wear it directly, unless it's a suit of armor. This also doesn't count against the set of tools limit you can wear, so if your armor is your toolkit, then you can also wear a second set of tools over your armor. It's pretty neat. Explosive Leap. For one action, you move 30 feet in any direction. This is crazy good. I mean, it's already faster than an average move speed. The only downside is it is unstable. So should you use this action, then you'll struggle to use future unstable actions. But it's still great. If you have the Construct Companion, it gets this action instead of you. Tamper is probably my favorite first level Inventor feat. It's effectively similar to Disarm, but a little bit better, and it uses crafting. You make a crafting check against your opponent's reflex DC. When you make this check, you choose to tamper with a target's armor or weapon. Should you critically succeed your crafting check against their reflex DC, they take a -2 not only to attack rolls, but also to their damage rolls. Should you tamper with their armor, they take a -10-foot penalty to their movement speed, and also inflict flat-footed. The crazy thing is that both of these effects are permanent until the enemy spends an interact action to remove them. Now, it's only one action, so it's easy to do, but keep in mind that is a manipulate action, so anyone with an attack of opportunity can take advantage of that, and it also just wastes an action, with Tamper itself only being one action. A normal success is the same as a critical success, except it isn't permanent. It wears off after one round, or if they interact. And the critical failure is just a backfire. Literally, your own tools explode in your face, and you take fire damage equal to your level. What's absolutely insane about Tamper is that unlike things like Disarm or Shove or Grab, this does not have the attack trait, meaning you don't take a penalty to attempt it multiple times, which means if you're adjacent to 3 different enemies, you can tamper with all of them, or if you fail your first tamper attempt, you can do it again. The target is not immune to your tamper after succumbing to it, so this is fantastic. Though keep in mind, this also has the manipulate trait, so if your opponent has attack of opportunity, they're gonna bonk you on the head when you're messing with their armor. Unstable Repair is kinda cool. It's a one-action repair action you can only use on your innovation. Now, the way they've justified it is that when you use it, it acts as though you just used an unstable action, so all future unstable actions have a high chance of failure. This isn't bad, especially when you have the Construct Companion. Being able to just heal it like this is really solid. Kickback Strike is hilarious, and it's the classic martial 3 actions for 2 actions. You make a strike first, and then stride twice. This one has to be in this order. Now, there is actually a typo here. You must end each stride further from the foe than you began, not each strike. But this is really cool. This effectively, it plays with the idea that you have so much kickback on your weapon that you fly back 2 full move actions. And keep in mind, this does not have to be a melee weapon. So if you have something like a firearm or even like a longbow, you can think of this as 2 actions: to fire with your longbow and then move twice to reposition, which is incredible. Just remember that this movement does still trigger attacks of opportunity. And the winner for best feat name in Pathfinder 2e, No, I created you. This is a really solid reaction. Should your construct somehow become controlled or confused, you can use your reaction to appeal to your bond with that construct. You then get to make a counteract check using your crafting skill, and should you succeed at counteracting the effect, your construct is not confused or controlled or whatever. You can even do this once per minute, so pretty solid. Though I will say, being a level 2 feat, you're not going to encounter confusion or controlling that often at low levels. Now, Searing Restoration has my vote for the most overpowered early game feat for the Inventor. Not because it's amazing in combat or incredible all at once, but because of its consistency. It's not incredibly quick, but for one action, you can restore 1d4 hit points per level you have to an adjacent living creature. This doesn't sound like a lot. You know, you're level 2, you heal for 2d4. That's not great. And this has the unstable trait, so once you use it, you can't use another unstable trait ability for another 10 minutes or without passing a 25% success chance. But you typically won't be using this in combat. Searing Restoration is just better than Treat Wounds. Sure, Treat Wounds, you spend 10 minutes, you heal for 2d8, fantastic, but then they're immune for an hour. Searing Restoration, the target is not immune at all. So over the course of that hour, while the target is immune to treat wounds, you can heal them for 2d4 6 times. You can heal for 12d4 health per hour. Now, this is only on one target at a time, it should be said. While you can treat wounds on multiple targets, you can only heal once with Searing Restoration every 10 minutes. But hey, if you've got an hour of downtime, you can combine this with treat wounds. If you have a medic working on everybody, you can just top everybody off. If they're still missing 5 or 6 hit points from the treat wounds, you top them off with Searing Restoration. This is insane. This is a heal spell that doesn't have a spell slot. It just comes back every 10 minutes. Transform Armor is okay. For one action, you basically change its shape into a way that reduces its bulk by 1 and reduces it from your body. So if your armor is normally 2 bulk, you spend this action, it becomes a 1 bulk item that you can hold in your hands or put away in your backpack. This is great for if you want to, start sneaking or just look nonchalant. If you use this ability while holding your compacted armor for one action, it immediately unfolds and re-armors you. So this is fantastic in that you are always one action away from being fully armored, whereas it normally takes 10 minutes to don armor. I think it's 5 minutes. But yeah, this is actually incredible for ambushes. You can walk around completely unarmored, and with 2 actions to draw and activate your armor, you're completely armored again. Really nice. Transform Construct is pretty much the same thing as Transform Armor, except for your Construct innovation. Depending on the size of your construct determines its weight, 2 bulk if it's small, 4 bulk if it's medium, and 8 bulk if it's large. And the nice thing is it does come with wheels, meaning that while in its compact form, you can just drag it behind you and move at half speed. Kinda hilarious, but I love it. Advanced Companion upgrades your companion. Diving Armor makes your armor innovation a scuba suit. It gives you the ability to permanently breathe underwater, as well as have a swim speed equal to your land speed. This isn't something you have to turn on or turn off, it's just permanent as long as you're wearing your armor. Dual Form Weapon is just really stupid cool. For 2 actions, you can turn your weapon innovation into a different weapon. So if you have a short sword, you can turn it in to a great hammer or something like that. We're talking Charge Blade from Monster Hunter style. Now, even cooler than that is you can choose a whole second set of configurations from your augments from level 1. This is amazing, and just gets better as you unlock more modifications for your weapon. But this means that you can have 2 weapons. Even if they're the same weapon, you could have it so one allows you to trip things, whereas another one, I don't remember the modifications off the top of my head, but you can have 2 and switch between them for 2 actions. Just as an awesome example, and again, just the flavor the weapon inventor gives you, you could have a dagger with complex simplicity, which increases the damage die, so you have a 1d6 dagger. And then, with dual form weapon, you could set it up so that for 2 actions, you can extend that dagger all the way out into a spear with the entangling construct modification, which gives it the grab trait. So just like that, you can go from a 1d6 dagger to a 1d6 spear with reach, grapple, and trip. And it's just so cool. You don't even need to spend the 2 actions at the same time. You can spend 1 action to get it halfway there, and then you can't attack with the weapon until you've done the second action. But you can still spend actions how you will. Maybe you plan to do something else that turn, so you spend 1 action changing, do something else, and then the first action on your next turn to finish the change. This is a really cool feat, and the Weapon Inventor stays my favorite. Megaton Strike is really similar to the fighter's power attack. It's actually a little stronger, but it's unstable, so you can't just keep spamming it. For 2 actions, you make an attack depending on your innovation, your construct attacks, your weapon attacks. You make an unarmed strike with your armor. And if that attack hits, you roll double the weapon damage dice. This means you roll 2 dice if you don't even have a striking rune, and you haven't even crit. That's just 2 dice not on a critical hit. And you're level 4, so a striking rune should be right around the corner, meaning if you just land a normal Megaton Strike, you're rolling 4 damage die. Should you critically hit, you're doubling that. And I'm also going to take this as a time to just explain why I always describe things as, like I would describe this as, with a critical hit, you would be rolling 8 damage die. So I think by the rules, technically that's wrong. I think you would technically still roll 4 damage die and double what you rolled. But my tables have always played with double the dice, not double the numbers. Because I just love rolling more dice. Everyone I play with just loves the opportunity to roll 4 dice. So I love the idea that you critically hit your Megaton Strike with a striking weapon and you roll 8 dice at level 4. That's amazing. You critically hit with a major striking weapon Megaton Strike, you know you're rolling 16d whatever to deal your damage, because that's fun. Clockwork Celerity is pretty cool. It's at 6th level and it is a free action to gain an extra action that turn. Think of this as a single-use quickened. If you have the armor innovation, you can take 1 free move action. If you have the weapon innovation, you can make 1 free strike. And probably the best one, if you have the construct innovation, you get to spend that action to command your construct. I mean, that's a free action to grant 2, so that means you get 3 more actions, and your construct gets 2 actions that turn. But remember, this is an unstable effect, so you can use it maybe once per encounter, maybe twice if you're going to risk it. And yet another unstable trait, which I'm starting to see a trend here, is Megavolt. Megavolt is basically just Lightning Bolt. It's a little bit weaker, but the effect is the same. 3d12 electricity damage with a basic reflex save. And just like the spell, every 2 levels after you get this, the damage increases by 1d12. But unlike a spellcaster, you don't need to spend a spell slot on this. But you sorta do. The more I'm looking at these feats, the more I'm realizing the Inventor is a martial class with effectively 1 spell slot, the unstable slot. You can use 1 of these per encounter, which the problem I see with this is that so many feats are unstable. So sure, you can take more than 1 and be versatile, but you can only use 1 at a time. Sure, you have a 25% chance of succeeding the second one, but those aren't great odds. So it sounds like it's encouraging you to pick 1 unstable feat you really like, and then a bunch of passives to surround it. But who knows, maybe there's more. We're only at level 6, let's keep going. Visual Fidelity gives you crazy sci-fi dark vision goggles. You instantly gain low light vision, dark vision, and anything that will attempt to blind you must succeed at a counteract check against your class DC. Only if they succeed that counteract check are you actually blinded. An upgrade to Megaton Strike, Gigaton Strike, is less impressive but still pretty good. This is just a permanent upgrade to your Megaton Strike that should you land the hit with it, they must make a Fortitude saving throw against your class DC. On all results but a critical success, they are pushed 5 feet, 10 feet, or 20 feet depending on their success rate. This is actually not too bad, as you're not necessarily a super tanky build, maybe if you're the armor inventor, but for the weapon inventor especially, this can waste precious actions of the enemies. Even if they succeed their Fortitude save and they get pushed 5 feet back, unless they have reach, they need to spend an action to walk back up to you. So this is not bad at all. Incredible Construct, I wonder what that does. Overdrive Ally is really cool. For 1 action, so long as you are currently gaining the benefits of your Overdrive, which adds your intelligence modifier to all of your damage, you can grant any ally within 30 feet that bonus damage for 1 round. Give this to something like a monk or a dual weapon ranger or fighter, and they could make some crazy good use out of this. This is basically saying, here, take +5 to all of your damage. Electrify Armor is fun, though remember, another unstable trait. For 1 action, you make your armor completely electrified. For the next minute, anytime a creature hits you with a non-reach melee attack, they take 1d12 electric damage. This actually gets increased to 2d12 later on. Pretty amazing. If you're an armor innovation inventor and you're just planning to take hits and tank anyway, why not deal some retaliation damage? Pretty solid. Manifold modifications ain't too bad. You get one more modification on your innovation. I am shocked I was able to say that in one take. Although it does need to be an initial modification, not any of the other second or third tiers. Tinker's Meddling is really rad. You choose an adjacent ally and you spend one action and a crafting check, and should you succeed, then that ally also gains the same benefits as your offensive boost, which was the level 8 class feature, which adds 1d6 damage of basically any element or type. Now keep in mind, this is against a high DC, and if you're level 10, a high DC is going to be around a DC 30. Luckily, there's no penalty for a normal fail, although you can only do this once every 10 minutes, so hopefully you don't fail, but if you do, not too bad. This is pretty good though. This is basically the wizard's Bespell weapon feat, but you can put it on any ally's weapon for a full minute. Once again, throw this on your Flurry Ranger and they are gonna have a ball. Boost modulation is an upgrade to the same offensive boost class feature. You can now pick 2 different elements of boost, and for an interact action, you can basically press a button on your weapon, and those electric sparks disappear, and it gets covered in flames, and stuff like that. So you can just use one interact action to change the bonus damage type on your weapon. Additionally, if your weapon is already modular, then when you change the damage type, let's say you're changing from bludgeoning to slashing, you can also change the physical damage bonus from your offensive boost. So if you've currently got a slashing weapon dealing 1d6 bonus slashing damage and you switch it to bludgeoning, well, you can also change that 1d6 bonus slashing to 1d6 bonus bludgeoning. Now, Gigavolt makes Megavolt amazing and makes it exactly what Wizards wish Lightning Bolt was. Should your Lightning Bolt hit any kind of a wall, you get to choose what angle it bounces off at, meaning that this, I believe, 60 or 90, I think it's a 90-foot line, can now bounce off walls, ricochet, and hit way more targets. This is even better, in my opinion, than an area of effect ability like Fireball, because with this, you can completely weave in between your allies, and as long as you have the distance, you can just strike. This is almost chain lightning, and I love it. Shared Overdrive is a direct upgrade to Overdrive Ally, and now, instead of ending at the end of that ally's next turn, they just permanently get the same bonus as your own Overdrive until your actual Overdrive wears off. This is fantastic, and you can still Overdrive other allies as well. Those overdrives will only last until the end of their turn, though. Which I like this. This leads to a cool support damage buff inventor. You know, they don't do a whole lot on their own. Maybe this is something the construct one takes, so they can do something with their actions while their construct is actually still attacking and taking hits. They can be upgrading and augmenting their allies' damage, which I think sounds really fun. Eternal Meddler upgrades Tinker's Meddling. Now, rather than only lasting for 1 minute, you, during your daily preparations, can attempt to augment an ally's weapon to permanently gain the 1d6 bonus damage from offensive boost for the entire day. I know I keep saying permanently and then adding a time frame. I guess I mean past one encounter for a long period of time. Now, this is against a very high crafting DC. You're level 14, you're probably looking at a DC 36, 37. It's not going to be easy, but should you succeed, that is so much bonus damage. I need to see a comp of a support inventor and a Flurry Ranger. You just permanently augment your Flurry Ranger's weapon and you overdrive them every fight. The damage is gonna be insane. Paragon Companion. Upgrades. Moving on. Unstable Redundancies, finally at level 14, lets you take 2 unstable actions without fail before needing to repair it again. This is a little late in my opinion. I know the unstable abilities are super strong, and maybe giving them 2 before level 10 would have been rough, but I think level 10 would have been a fair place to put this. Level 14 is endgame for a lot of campaigns. I know not necessarily for all of the official adventure paths, but at least coming from my experience, campaigns rarely go past that level. So getting this so late definitely makes the Inventor a little harder to play in the early game, but it is an incredible feat that pretty much all Inventors, especially if they just like using unstable abilities, are going to take. Soaring Armor, level 16, you can fly. A very close second for best feat name is You Failed to Account for this! Basically, if you are being attacked, you can, instead of having them attack your armor class, choose to have them attack your crafting DC instead, which is likely going to be far higher, especially because you're level 16. You're currently legendary in crafting. If you have a +5 to your crafting skill, then what's your DC going to be? I think 39, 16 plus 8 plus 5 plus 10 from the flat to add to a DC. That basically turns your armor class into 39 and ignores any penalties inflicted to armor class. The example it gives is that if you're flat-footed and you use this reaction, well, your crafting DC is not affected by being flat-footed. The flavor is cool too. You get to just decide what you pull out of nowhere, which, you know my stance, I'm not a big fan of the, oh, by the way, I have this. But it's still pretty cool. You just get to pull out something that would make sense to try to stop an attack. The example it gives is if like an electric lizard is about to shock you, you pull out a random lightning rod you have on hand. Again, my only issue with that is like, did you already have that lightning rod? And when can a player be like, can I use you failed to account for this to pull out a lightning rod to grab the lightning? And I'd be like, do you have a lightning rod? And they say no. And then you get these weird rules where, as a GM, you'd kind of have to allow this of, wizard, cast shocking grasp on me, so I can use you failed to account for this to pull out a lightning rod. Now I legally have a lightning, and it gets so messy. But it's still a fun feat. I think what would fix this feat, honestly, is the item you pull out breaks after attempting to stop the attack, no matter what. That way you can't pull out an item and then keep it afterwards. I'd be fine with that. You know, that doesn't actually give you an item. It just stops the attack and breaks every time. I'd be more fine with that. Devastating weaponry is whirlwind attack from the fighter on steroids. For 3 actions, describing however you want, your weapon attacks every creature within 30 feet of you at the same multiple attack penalty. If it's a melee weapon, you just let it go, and with rocket thrusters, it just flies around and stabs at everything. This is insane. You look at Whirlwind Strike from a fighter, which is 3 actions to attack everything around you. This is 3 actions to attack everything within 30 feet in all directions. This is crazy, and it's so cool. You can get so flavorful with this. You take a crossbow, you fire it up in midair, the bolt explodes into like 1,000 little bolts, and they just rain down, and ugh, this is too cool. I hate it. It's so cool. Engine of Destruction is basically the same thing for your Construct, except the Construct gets to take an extra stride action. So for 3 actions, your Construct moves once and then attacks everything within 30 feet, which in all likelihood makes it better than the weapon one, because you can now position your Construct in a way to hit as many things as possible and then activate the attack, whereas with the weapon innovation, you kind of already need to be in position because you have to use all 3 of your actions. Oh, something I should have mentioned, neither of these are unstable. You can do this every round. Multifarious Meddler is the final upgrade to Eternal Meddler, and now, rather than attempting a crafting check to buff one ally's weapon, you no longer need to make a check, and you automatically succeed at buffing 6 weapons. It's just a permanent plus 1d6. I think 2d6 at this point, maybe 3d6? I don't remember how it scales. This is just permanent bonus damage to every member of your party forever. And then finally, the armor innovation gets the negate damage reaction. Should you be about to take damage, you can spend your reaction to reduce the damage taken by 50. This is crazy. I understand why they gave this the unstable trait, which, to be fair, does feel a little unfair compared to the construct and the weapon innovations. I think what they should have done is taken away the unstable trait and made it like 20 or 25 damage reduction. Because then, again, you can still only use it once per round. If you get targeted multiple times, you'll still get beat down. But with the way it is written right now, you can only use this maybe twice per encounter if you took the 14th level feat for 2 unstable reactions, which is still crazy. Being able to mitigate 100 damage in an encounter is crazy. But, again, these level 18 capstones feel like they should be big ultimate moves that they can spam. You know, like the other two, the construct and the weapon can spam their ultimates. The armor is limited. We got 2 more feats, starting with full automation. This is basically an upgrade to that unstable feat from like level 6, and it just permanently quickens you. If you use armor, you can take a free move action. If you have a construct, you're permanently quickened to command it, and if you have a weapon, you're permanently quickened to strike again. The only downside here is I think the weapon one is the weakest for full automation, because you already have the 3 action attack everything. You would rather have an additional action to move somehow, so unfortunately, the weapon one's extra strike isn't all that useful. But the free command and the free move action are always going to be great. And Ubiquitous Overdrive is probably what you will take as a weapon innovator. Whenever you use the Overdrive Unstable ability, you also overdrive 6 allies. Now, they do need to be within 30 feet of you, which could prove difficult, especially in those level 20 battles where the battlefields are massive and exploding, but that overdrive is a ton of extra damage. And that was Inventor Part 2. I hope it was worth the wait. I sincerely hope you guys enjoyed it and got exactly what you were looking for out of it. And hey, my recording is under an hour, which means the final video is probably only going to be about 35-40 minutes, so awesome. I want to just take this moment to say thank you guys so much for your understanding, your patience this past month. It's meant a lot to me. All the positive tweets and positive comments and positive messages in the Discord server, I see them. It's all meant the world to me, especially this past month. I hope soon things will get even more back to normal. I feel like I say that every single video, but it's been great. And hey, if you really want to help support the channel, like the video, leave a comment, subscribe to the channel. It all does so much to help this keep moving forward at the incredible rate we have been. I want to give a huge shout out to my patrons for supporting me every month. If you would also like to be a patron, there is a link down in the description to my Patreon where you can pledge for as little as $5 a month. So thank you all so very much for watching. I hope you have a wonderful rest of your day. Until next time, no nat ones.